good for Cardoso.
Oh, you know what? That's a good question. There's not a ton of variability, so I don't know. McDonald off the...
The Indiana Fever have once again made headlines with another shakeup to their roster. A move that might have flown under the radar for some but actually carries a lot of intrigue when you start peeling back the layers. Because just when fans thought this season had been defined by inconsistency, injury setbacks, and constant roster turnover, the franchise has shown that it is not ready to fold or give in to the difficulties that have been thrown its way, instead opting to continue, searching for new solutions in the hopes of salvaging competitiveness and adding more stability to their back. The big story hot off the wire is that the Fever have signed guard Kyra Lambert to a 7-day hardship contract. And while the signing may not have been on the radar for most casual fans, and even some dedicated followers of the WNBA might not have immediately recognized her name, once you start to trace her basketball journey, you quickly realize that this is not some ordinary pickup but rather a player whose career arc is steeped in resilience, international seasoning, and the kind of determination that often makes for a meaningful addition to a struggling team. Let's rewind a bit and put things into context. The Indiana Fever, a team that has been battling through another grueling WNBA campaign in 2025, have seen their depth tested at virtually every position but particularly at point guard, where injuries have ravaged the rotation. First came the unfortunate news of Ari McDonald being lost for the season, a blow that severely limited the team's floor leadership. Then Odyssey Sims, who had been brought in to provide veteran stability, also became unavailable, leaving the Fever scrambling for answers in the one area of the game that often dictates pace, control, and organization. On top of that, Sydney Colson was sidelined, further depleting an already fragile guard rotation. That series of setbacks is what forced the Fever's front office to apply for and receive a hardship exception from the league, a mechanism designed to help teams that lose multiple players to injury bring in reinforcements even if they've already hit the roster limit. And so, in stepped Kyra Lambert, whose name popped up on the Fever's official social media accounts earlier this week, sparking curiosity across the basketball community. At first glance, Lambert may seem like a late bloomer or a hidden gem, but her resume tells a different story, a story of persistence, faith, and unshakable confidence in her ability to compete at the highest levels of the game. Before we dive into her overseas career, it's worth remembering that she was once a highly touted prospect at the collegiate level, beginning her career at Duke University, a program known for its rich basketball tradition and emphasis on guard play. Unfortunately, her time at Duke was marred by injuries, including a significant ACL setback that forced her to reimagine her path and lean heavily on her inner resilience. After battling through rehab and the difficult mental toll that comes with recovering from such injuries, Lambert transferred to the University of Texas, where she managed to re-establish herself as a steady presence on the court, proving not just to herself but also to her coaches and teammates that she still had the tools to compete. For many players, such injuries might have permanently altered their trajectory. But Lambert embraced the challenge as part of her story, relying on her faith, her work ethic, and her vision of eventually making it to the professional stage. While she didn't immediately land in the WNBA, her post-college journey led her overseas, where she began carving out a reputation as a reliable guard with a high basketball IQ, a strong work ethic, and an impressive ability to adapt to different systems. In Europe, Lambert gained valuable seasoning by competing in highly competitive leagues. Most recently, she found herself in Greece, suiting up for a club that ended up winning the prestigious Greek A1 League Championship. During that title run, she averaged an impressive 15 points per game while shooting a scorching 42% from three-point range, a stat line that not only shows her scoring ability but also highlights her shooting efficiency, something Indiana has desperately needed during stretches of this season. Her efforts overseas didn't go unnoticed, as she earned recognition as Europe's Guard of the Year, an accolade that underscored her impact and elevated her profile across the basketball world. Prior to her stint in Greece, Lambert had also competed in France, further broadening her exposure to different playing styles and solidifying her reputation as a player who could adapt quickly to new environments. It's also worth noting that up until this signing, the Fever had not had any European seasoned veterans on their roster, making Lambert's arrival a unique addition in terms of experience and perspective. When Lambert finally sat down with the media after joining the Fever, her words resonated deeply. Not just because of her excitement but because of the authenticity with which she spoke about her journey. She described the moment as a blessing, crediting her faith and her persistence for carrying her through the challenges she had faced, especially the difficult years of injury rehab and the ups and downs of playing overseas while still holding on to the dream of making it in the WNBA. She emphasized that she never saw the vision as far-fetched, even during her darkest moments, because she trusted the process, did the work, and kept believing that her time would come. That kind of mentality is exactly what a team like Indiana needs right now, someone who not only brings skills to the floor but also embodies resiliency and positivity during a season where injuries and setbacks could easily sink morale. Lambert also spoke about her familiarity with the WNBA, explaining that she had been following the league closely for years, studying the game not just as a fan but as a professional preparing for her chance. She acknowledged that joining mid-season meant she had to quickly study the Fever's system, learn new plays, and understand her teammates' tendencies. But she embraced the challenge with a student's mindset, comparing it to studying for school by diving into film, studying the playbook, and doing her due diligence to be ready. In terms of her style of play, Lambert described her game as one that fits seamlessly with what Indiana is trying to do, running and gunning, pushing the ball in transition, bringing defensive pressure, and infusing intensity and physicality into every possession. That description aligns perfectly with what the Fever have been lacking in recent games: consistency at the point guard spot. Someone who can manage pace, reduce turnovers, and make timely plays without disrupting team chemistry. Head coach Stephanie White also offered insight into how the Fever identified Lambert, crediting former Fever great Brianne January, who has become known as a well-connected figure across international basketball circles. January reportedly helped flag Lambert as a potential fit, which is a testament to how the Fever are leaning on their extended network to find reinforcements during such a challenging season. White emphasized that the signing wasn't about bringing in a star player to dominate games, but rather about finding someone dependable who could give the team meaningful minutes, keep the offense organized, and reduce the costly turnovers that have plagued them. With the Fever preparing to face the Washington Mystics at the close of a 3-game homestand, the timing of Lambert's signing couldn't have been more crucial. The team needed depth, stability, and fresh energy heading into that matchup, and while there's no guarantee how many minutes she will play or how quickly she will adapt, the expectation is that she can provide anywhere from 5 to 15 solid minutes if called upon, buying time for the starters and giving Indiana a steady hand in situations that have too often spiraled out of control due to lack of ball security. And while some fans might dismiss a 7-day hardship contract as temporary, the reality is that these deals often serve as auditions for longer opportunities. If Lambert impresses during her brief stint, she could earn an extended look, and in the WNBA, where roster spots are scarce and competition is fierce, such moments can define careers. The Fever themselves have been living on the edge all season, constantly retooling, constantly searching for new answers, and Lambert's signing is just the latest example of how unpredictable and challenging professional basketball can be. It's a reminder of the volatility of the sport, but also of the endless opportunities for players who refuse to quit. Players like Kyra Lambert, who have walked the long road overseas, battled through injuries, leaned on their faith, and finally arrived at the doorstep of the WNBA with an unshakable belief in their journey. For Indiana, this move represents more than just filling a roster hole. It's a reflection of their refusal to give in, their commitment to pushing forward no matter how tough the circumstances, and their willingness to embrace new faces and new stories in the pursuit of building something sustainable. As the Fever continue their campaign, with all eyes still on stars like Caitlin Clark to deliver and veterans like Kelsey Mitchell to lead, the addition of Lambert adds another layer to their evolving narrative. It shows fans and critics alike that the Fever are not going to roll over but are instead determined to find ways to stay afloat, to stay competitive, and to fight for every inch on the court. In the broader scope of the WNBA, Lambert's signing is also a powerful reminder of how deep the talent pool runs. The talent.
Second three.
Very well executed for Caitlin Clark.
She might have had a pretty good case. And it's Howard beating the pack back.
When you really break down what's happening in Indiana right now, the addition of Kyra Lambert isn't just about filling a roster spot or making a flashy midseason signing. It's about stability, insurance, and giving the team a fighting chance to keep pushing forward in the middle of what has been one of the most unpredictable and injury-riddled seasons in recent memory for the Fever. And if you take a closer look inside the walls of Gainbridge Fieldhouse and listen to head coach Stephanie White's perspective, You start to see how every move is less about immediate perfection and more about adaptability, resilience, and survival in a league where nothing ever stays the same for long. Coach White was candid when asked how her group has managed to handle the whirlwind of changes, setbacks, and lineup shuffling that has defined the past month, pointing out that the biggest reason the Fever are still competing night in and night out is because her players have proven themselves to be an incredibly resilient group. One that understands the nature of the WNBA is constant change, not just for Indiana but across the league, and that flexibility is the only way forward. She stressed that her team has embraced the uncertainty, choosing to focus less on what's missing and more on what's possible. And while nothing about this stage of the season is perfect, whether you're talking about injuries, roster adjustments, or unfamiliar player personnel, the defining trait of her players has been their willingness to compete, their hunger to play, and their determination to stay together through the storm. When it comes to adding new players like Chloe Jackson earlier and now Kyra Lambert, White admitted that there's no single blueprint that works across the board, because each player arrives with a different skill set, level of familiarity, and capacity to absorb information quickly. With someone like Odyssey Sims, the team knew exactly what she could bring, thanks to her extensive WNBA resume. But with Lambert, who has spent most of her professional career overseas, the process is more about figuring out how to best position her for success within Indiana's system. White gave an example with Vi Holmes, who had primarily been used as a power forward but was suddenly asked to shift to the wing when injuries left them short on perimeter players, underscoring how the Fever have been forced to constantly experiment, juggle roles, and ask players to step into unfamiliar responsibilities just to keep the roster afloat. That's why the front office's scouting work has been so critical, because in a season like this, it's not about waiting for perfect fits but about finding players who can adapt quickly and give the team a shot at staying competitive. White revealed that this process involves a mix of film study, conversations with